We are here for week number 11 here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Zaxbys 250, the 9th race on the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series calendar. The last time the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series drivers hit the track was 2 weeks ago when Damon Scott ran a perfect race at Edmonton, leading all 40 laps en route to his victory despite starting in the 5th spot. The big storyline heading into this weekend's race was that Reelin Racing will be bought out by Common Corporation following the 2015 season. Reelin currently owns 2 cars, that being the 53 driven by Brian Kittleson and the 63 driven by Connor Stanton. It is also confirmed that Stanton will not return to that 63 car. That Common Corporation's officials have returned that Stanton will not return to that 63 car, instead having Avis Rapix, who currently splits the duties of that 07 car for Common Corporation. Rapix will run the 63 full-time for the 2015 season, for the 2016 season. Common Corporation currently has a 2-car stable, that of being the Tobias Newbridge, the main car in that stable, and then the 07, which is sponsored by Chick-fil-A, which is driven by Frank Meridian and Avis Rapix. And as we scan through, we're going to take a look first at our Week 10 winners. Nick Wilson took a relatively calm race at Bristol in the All-American division in Week 10. The Iowa saw a 1-overtime race and a quite crazy race at Iowa for the Lowe's Modified Tour. Michael Craig took the checkered flag in that one. And Gerald Gomer took the first of 2 DHL European Tour races that would take in a span of 2 weeks. That was at Brno. And now we're going to take a look at our Week 11 winners. The European Tours, as I mentioned, will run second race the following week at the Brands Hatch course. Manuel Jinga for Spain took the checkered flag in that one, in probably one of the more calmer races of the weekend, as the rest would just be kind of crazy. The Orange County Speedway hosted the Gillette Dirt Series. Brian Hammonds took the checkered flag in that one. And then things got really wacky at Road America, where cars would start sliding all over the place. However, Cope Racing and car number 48 survived the Carnation route to take the victory there. At Spencer, in a relatively caution-free event, a strange finish happened as Alan Simmons was able to pass Luke Havertine on the final lap after the 2 strongest cars, that being Cody Preston and Lester Conway, took each other out in the closing stages of that race. Kiara Kilgore took the first of 2 races here for the GameStop Truck Series here in Atlanta, and then the other race was taken by John Porter in car number 80 in the Gatorade Series. The Atlanta Motor Speedway is a 1.5-mile quad oval that is located in Hampton, Georgia. The last time we ran here was during the 2012 season, which Daniel Salomon rounded the field, led 56 of 120 to win this race. This year's race is 134 laps, and this is week number 11. Winning the Aflac Pole Award here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway is Mike Hogan in car number 17. The first pole of the season. Ike James Jr. car number 9, who's had a rough couple of weeks, starts in second. Chris Clark, one of the favorites going in this weekend, and Shane Howard, they are start in row number 2. Shane Hart, the other favorite, starts in 11th. Walter Youth, your points leader going in this weekend, starts in the 14th spot. Casey Lester had to rely on a provisional. He starts in 21st. There you see Kyle Eichson making his first start of the year, starts in 29th. Moko Mansell, another driver, making his first start of the year, starts in 34th. And rounding out the field is Brandon Green in car number 30. He starts in 42nd. So there you see the 17 of Mike Hogan. Hogan would lead the field down to the green, with Ike James Jr. in the 09 on his outside. Hogan gets a really good start in that number 17. Ike James Jr., I believe that highline never really got going. Shane Howard in the 03 would get by the 09 of Ike James Jr. So Shane Howard, one of your favorites going into this weekend. He actually was predicted to finish 3rd according to Vegas Bets. Howard gets by Ike James Jr. He's now takes 2nd over Damon Scott in the 18, meanwhile trying to get there. Hogan would somehow have a problem on the start of the race, and the 17 would be forced to pit here, as we don't know what really happened there, but I think we're going to get a report that the 17 had a loose wheel, and the officials never really got it. The other Zaxbys car, which is sponsored by Chadwick Lake, would be involved in our first caution of the race on lap number 2, as he gets turned by Tony Wider. So Zaxby's not really getting a good advertisement as they are supposed to, as they got one in the pits and the other one's already wrecked. Hogan's already lapped down, and on the restart on lap number 6, Shane Howard in the 03 is leading the way with Shane Hart in the 59 in second, Max Rapon in car number 77 in 3rd. And there you see Walter Green in car number 39 already trying to make a move under that 77 of Max Rapon. Jason Calasso and James Wilson Jr. are also back here. Wilson in the number 11 Cool Ranch Doritos, which Wilson normally runs a red scheme. This week he's running a blue scheme, very similar to the Cool Ranch flavored Doritos. Shane Hart in the 59, meanwhile, is going to go and take the lead away from car number 03 of Shane Howard, as Harden in the 59 has had just 2 bad weeks. At Indianapolis, he dropped out due to a mechanical issue, and then ended up DNQing at Edmonton due to the fact he never really had a fast enough time and already burned his provisional of that coming at Daytona. Walter Green, car number 39, Meanwhile, is going to try to get by that lap car of Mike Hogan and is going to try to use that charge on Harden. However, that's not going to be enough. Harden is still having that decent-sized gap over the Thorniana Walter Green. Meanwhile, Jason Calasso will try to get there as our next caution come out lap number 10. Max Rapano will get turned by Chris Clark. Shane Nargan in the 32s in the wall. Harden was bent on. Nargan's upside down. Luke Warren, Stephen Volk, Shane Truex, Wilco Manso, and I think Kyle actually got a piece of that as well. And here's where, from Nargan's perspective, Nargan turns into the wall, spins out, and gets hit hard by Luke Warren in the 14. Stephen Volk's also in there. And Chadler Blake in the 15. So Blake's day just went from bad to worse. Kyle Ikes into the 05, making his first start of the year. Also gets a piece of that. And Casey Littinger in the 5, I believe, also got a piece of that as well. Harden in the 59 would lean on the restart. Jay Arnori would restart in second. Eddie Johnson, car number 59, restarting in third. Keith Hales and car number 27 start in the fourth spot. Harden would be able to get away from both the 17 and the 01 of Jay Arnori. As the 17 of Mike Hogan, who's sponsoring the Zaxbys scheme to promote the Zaxbys Race Challenge, which both the 17 and 15 race, but since Blake's technically crashed himself out, Hogan's technically won the challenge anyway, so that's really not going to matter anyway. As Harden comes around the corner, we would actually have a debris caution on lap 15 because the officials didn't pick up all the debris that came from that previous caution, so they came by and picked it up. Harden would lead on the restart on lap number 19, as Jay Arnori and Keith Hales, they round out the top 3, as here we have Eddie Johnson, car number 55, and Chris Clark, car number 56, running in the 4th spot, as there you see Harden having a little bit more difficult time with that 17 as he did in the previous restart, where Harden just drove away from that 17, but this time Hogan is able to keep up with that 59 Shane Harden. That, as a result, is going to really help the inside line, preferably Damon Scott. However, Damon Scott would be pushed out of the way by Eddie Johnson, 55, and Chris Clark in the 56, 2 Monster Energy Racing cars. Monster Energy Racing would manage to put their cars in the top 20 spots, with Chris Clark in the 56 taking the lead away here by Shane Harden, as Clark is one of the favorites. He actually was the favorite to win this race, as there you see Kyrie Houston in the 57. If you look a little bit farther, Eddie Johnson to 55 and Scott Johnson are also in the mix as well. So that means all 5 Monster Energy Racing cars are in the top 10. So if they can finish there, then it would be an excellent day for this team. Kyrie Houston in the 57, meanwhile, goes for the 2nd spot under Shane Harden, 59. Casey Lester in car number 12 is following suit. Todd Piper in car number 26, we are focused on him because Piper, who was one of the championship favorites going into the season, Piper's just had a really rough year, and not only a rough year for him, but a rough year for the team in general. Keith Hales in the 27, also focused there. Hales in the 27 has also failed to qualify on several occasions. Hales was supposedly a title contender going into the season, along with Todd Piper. However, both of them have failed expectations so far, as there you see the 58 of Scott Johnson. He's going to get under both the 27 and the 26. Walter Yuthin, car number 8, the car right behind him. Walter Yuthin, who's leading the points going into this weekend, already serving at point that he's doing a good job on defending that points lead, as while Hogan is running about 33rd right now. Walter Yuthin is, I believe, just cracked the top 10 as a result of that pass by both Todd Piper, and he's going to try to pass Keith Hales, car number 27. His teammate Mike Hogan, who's actually second in points, as I mentioned, is running a little bit issues, and then he has a good distance away from Shane Harden for that 3rd spot in the point standings. As there you see another car up there, James Scotty in car number 9. Scotty was not exactly supposed to be a title contender, but was projected to finish inside the top 20, and like Todd Piper and Keith Hales, the 9 has kind of failed expectations, as James Scotty was never really with a strong team in the first place, and with one really good year in 2014, everybody thought the expectations would carry on for this year, but the 9 of Scotty, who has the Skittles brand, is not really doing this year. And here's Brian Kittleson in car number 53 for Reelin Racing. As I mentioned, Reelin Racing will be bought out by the Calcom Corporation, and Kittleson we do not know if Kittleson will be returning with that 53, or matter of fact, if Pepsi is actually coming along the Calcom Racing group. All we just know is that Reelin Racing was purchased by Calcom Racing and will go under the Calcom banner beginning with the 2016 season, that he'll be racing with Avis Rapix, Tobias Newbridge, and Frank Meridian alongside. Kittleson has won the 2010 championship with the team, but it's kind of a heartbreak to see that team just go after winning the 2010 championship. Chris Clark, meanwhile, retake the lead over from Shane Harden, as they actually swapped back up front, swapped the lead several times. Austin Warwick in car number 3 is also in the mix. Warwick's just not had the years that he's had, and he's never really been a front runner in his entire NOVAR career. There you see the 51 of Ethan Littinger. Littinger is wheeling off 5 straight top 10 finishes. and has had top 5 finishes in 4 of the last 5 races. Meanwhile, we have a little bit more action. There you see Walter Houston almost gets turned into Ethan Linger. He was turned by Chris Clark. A very close call for car number 8 of Walter Houston. But Casey Lester in the 12, meanwhile, is battling Shane Harden for the lead. Lester, who also DNF'd for Edmonton, has just had an up and down year. While Lester somehow had some shining moments, he's just had some dull moments too. Notably in Las Vegas to be talking about. Ethan Linger, car number 51, trying to get that second spot. Harden gets a really good run on the outside, and he's going to try to retake the lead using that outside line. Harden tries to get there, but it doesn't. But Harden does not clear the 12, and Lester in the 12. Lester in car number 12 is going to try to get his way back to the front. Ethan Linger in the 51 is also going to try to get help, as he has help from Austin Warwick in car number 3. We would actually have a very long green flag run, and here's Casey Lester. This actually green flag stop happened around lap 75, as Casey Lester car number 12, Stephen Bolton the 29, also follows suit there. As here is what ended up as Ethan Linger, Casey Lester, and Jamie Scott A were all battling out for the race lead. Linger in the 51 looking for his second career win in 3 starts. Casey Lester in car number 12 looking for his first career win. Jamie Scott A also trying to give the team's first win here since 2011, where Gordon Bullard won. As Ethan Linger is going to try to maneuver around that 11 car of James Jr. Jamie Scott A in car number 9 will go for second under that 12 of Casey Lester. And the 51 of Ethan Linger will try to go to the bottom. He will get around that 11 car of James Jr. Wilson, who has struggled pretty much throughout this race, even though despite starting up front early on. The 9 of Scott A will be able to get by that 51. We do actually have a very long green flag run. It will come to an end because Blake Montaglione would get hit by St. Truex. He comes up to get Brian Dawson. The 30 of Brandon Green's also collected. We would have our fourth caution lap 106. Dawson would come down the track. Gets hit by Chris Clark. So very similar to Columbia. Chris Clark was a favorite, and now gets taken out. He gets hit by Austin Warwick. So Austin Warwick, who needed a very good day, just has a catastrophic ending. He gets hit by Walter Green and Brian Kittleson. So Chris Clark and Austin Warwick, tough break for both of those drivers. And it looks like their days will come to an end. We'll have a restart in lap 110 with Ethan Linger in car number 51 leading the way. Jamie Scott in car number 9 running in the second spot. Linger gets away from the pack easily, while Jamie Scott in car number 9 struggles with the lap car of James Jr. And the 11th car, Mike Hogan in the 17, also following suit. That inside line will push their way through, as it will cause a little bit of struggles on the outside line. Wilson will clear the 9, while Mike Hogan will follow suit. As Ethan Linger coming out of turn number 4, he already has this decent-sized gap over second place Jamie Scott A. And there we see we're getting a little bit dicey in the back, as here's our big story of the race. As you see, Eddie Johns gets into the back of Stephen Volk, gets in the shade. Plus that gets Harden. Who you think? Your points leader going into this weekend. Walter Houston, the 8, gets hit by Brian Kittles, and Kyrie Houston's also in there. As they see, and heavy damage to Shane Harden, the 59. As Harden, who has just 2 bad weeks, it will unfortunately be a third. There you see another angle of it. Looks like the 59 of Johns, I believe Volt came down on the 55, and then they were just nowhere to go. Harden gets hit hard, both by Brian Wilson and Keith Hales, and nearly gets hit by Shane Truex in the 73. And here's from points leader Walter Houston. Unless if Mike Hogan somehow has a miracle, it doesn't appear that Walter Houston will be walking away with points lead. He gets hit by Brian Kittleson. Doesn't look like a lot of damage, but the 8 of Walter Houston would drop out of the race. He's actually smoking back there. Let's take a look at what happened. Johnson, the 55, tried to came down. Volt thought he was clear, but was just mistimed it by about half an inch. That's what the difference can make from a wreck to getting through. Mike Hogan and James Wilson Jr. would be able to get back on the lead lap. This would actually be big for Mike Hogan, because he would get back on the lead lap with his 2 points rivals crashing out at the same time. Jamie Scott A in car number 9 led on the restart with Ethan Linger, car number 51 in second. Carson Brooks, car number 75, is in third. Brooks, who's just been having bad luck since the 2012 season. Brooks has just not had the luck he's wanted, and he's right now running in third. We've never really seen that 75 car up in front, but today is a really good day for that 75, and then we got a wreck in the back. Matt Campbell on the 28's around. Steve Volk on the 29's also in there. Here's what happened. Looks like Hamill was trying to get down on the 12 of Lester, gets himself turned around. Steve Volk, looks like Tony Wider's also in there. Sean McDowell, the 10. Doesn't appear anybody else was there. We actually had footage of the race for the lead was cut off, but Ethan Linger in the 59 would go under the 9. of Jamie Scott and would get right by him with just relative ease, as Ethan Lindner will beat the 9 of Jamie Scott back to the caution flag. So Lindner will actually lead on this restart. The following restart at 1:23, so about 11 laps to go. Ethan Lindner in the 51 would actually get away from the 18 of Jamie Scott, his teammate, which I don't think that was deliberate. It was just that Lindner got a really good start while Jamie Scott and the 9 just apparently did not get going. As Casey Lester in the 12 would be hogging the back of that number 9 of Jamie Scott, and Lindner would actually start pulling away, would basically be running away from the field until Scott Johnson, car number 58, caught to the 51 of Lindner. Scott Johnson, who's the only driver, I believe, that won in 2014 for Monster Energy Racing that has not won yet in 2015. As Scott Johnson, the 58, is going to try to make a race-winning move. Johnson, who is right now, I believe, 4th in the point standings. It was, I believe, right now in the top 10 of the point standings after not really having a great 2014 season. As Johnson in the 58 is going to get challenged by Jason Calasso. However, Johnson is able to beat him out here. But with 3 laps to go, Scott Johnson, the 58, will make his move. He gets under the 51 of the Ethan Lindner. Johnson, meanwhile, gets right on by, and this was actually 4 to go, by the way. And this is Scott Johnson, 58. Johnson will get to the bottom of the racetrack. He barely beats Lindner there. Lindner still holding tough on that outside line, and Lindner is going to try to get that outside line going, but he can't really get a run. Johnson gets a better run there, and car number 58, if Scott Johnson takes the lead with 3 laps remaining here, but Lindner gets a really good run. Lindner couldn't really open the door there, as Scott Johnson, the 58, was already having a decent run. He had got the bottom lane open. Meanwhile, Todd Piper in the 26 is contesting for 3rd. He actually got by Jamie Scott for the 3rd spot, and this is coming with 2 laps to go. Ethan Lindner, the 51, going to the bottom of the racetrack. Todd Piper in the 26 will be following, as Ethan Lindner will try to take the lead away from the 58 of Scott Johnson. Johnson trying hard on that outside line. Ethan Lindner trying to hold at the bottom, and going into turn number 3. Lindner in the 51 looks like he's cleared the 58 of Scott Johnson. And we're heading to the white flag this time by Ethan Lindner. He's got 1 lap away from potentially scoring his 2nd career win. Todd Piper, meanwhile, has just gotten by Scott Johnson. Can Ethan Lindner hold off the 26 Todd Piper, or will Todd Piper pull a upset win here? Lindner, looks like Piper got a really good run down the middle of turn 1 and 2. Piper now making the move on the back straightaway. The 26 of Piper. Piper trying to go to the bottom of the racetrack. Here comes Piper in the 26. Lindner, I believe, had to check up, and Piper in the 26, meanwhile, is going to go for the bottom. It doesn't appear Jamie Scott is coming, but it's not going to matter. Todd Piper is going to score his first career NOVAR Verizon Cup Series victory here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Jamie Scott getting 2nd. So Todd Piper makes a last lap pass on Ethan Lindner to take his first career victory here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. It is the first time this season that a non-Monster Energy Racing Ford has gone to victory lane and is the fewest laps led by a race winner. Piper only led 3 laps en route to his victory. Jamie Scott just had enough momentum to get by Ethan Lindner for the 2nd spot. Ethan Lindner went from 1st to 3rd in about a quarter of a lap, so heartbreak for car number 51 of Ethan Lindner, who was about to score his 2nd career victory in 3 races. Scott Johnson, car number 58, 4th place finish for Scott Johnson. Johnson, who almost had a chance, like Lindner, had a chance to win the race. However, he was past 2 to go, and then Piper passed him, and he dropped back and couldn't really recover. Jake Carroll in car number 76 finishes in 5th. A very quiet day for car number 76. Mike Hogan in car number 17 comes back from 1 lap down. He ran 1 lap down for most of the race and ran about mid to low 20s and high 30s. And he comes back to finish in the 6th spot. And with his points rivals having troubles, Hogan will take over the points lead, and we will take a look at that as we get to the next page. Carson Brooks in car number 75, a well-needed good run for car number 75. Brooks has just been tumultuous the past 2 years, as Brooks needed this top 10. He finishes 7th. Jason Calasso in car number 04 finishes in 8th. Calasso almost had a chance to win the race. However, like Johnson and Lindner, he fell back at the latter portion of the final laps. Casey Lester in car number 12 fell back and never really had a chance to win the race. And then James Wilson Jr. had a very similar story that happened to Hogan. However, Wilson was 1 lap short and finishes in the 10th spot. And now we take a look at your point standings. As I mentioned earlier, Mike Hogan is the new points leader. He leads by 5 points over Ethan Lindner. Lindner gained 2 spots to second. Lindner just gained a spot to get the points lead. Littinger is leading the league in top 5s and top 10s. He has 5 top 5s and 6 top 10s, which the 6 top 10s have basically come all in a row. He has 6 straight going into next week's event at Boston. Walter Youth in car number 8 is in 3rd. He's actually tied with Littinger. However, as I mentioned, the top 5 was the tiebreaker, as Littinger had 5, as I mentioned. Walter Youthen has 3. Shane Harden, who in the 59, we all thought he was going to have a chance to probably redeem himself after a couple of bad weeks. This week was no different, as he struggled due to an accident late in that race. He drops to 4th in the standings, 29 points back. Scott Johnson gains a spot to 5th in the point standings. He is 38 points back. CJ Gordon loses a spot to 6th in the point standings. He is 48 points back. Jay Honori and Eddie Johns are tied for 7th. Honori, I believe, actually Eddie Johns is getting the tiebreaker, as he's supposed to be in 7th. However, on our scoreboard, Honori is ahead of John. Ike J. Jr. in car number 09, he is 9th. He is 61 points back. And then Damon Scott remains in the top 10. He has 71 points back of the points leader. And now let's take a look at 11 through 20. Kyrie Ethan remains in the 11th spot. He is 72 points back. Casey Lister gains 4 spots to 12th. He is 77 points back. James Wilson Jr., car number 11. He is 83 points back. He sits 13th in the point standings. Jake Killen with his top 10 gains 9 spots to 14th in the point standings. He is 90 points back. Matt Campbell in car number 28 also gets a good climb. He is climbed 4 spots to 15th. He is 91 points back. Brandon Green gains 1 spot. He is 92 points back. Chris Clark, after his accident, he falls 3 spots to 17th. Max Rapon and Chadler Blake, I believe Chadler Blake struggled in this race while Rapon failed to qualify. Rapon is tied with Chris Clark for the 17th spot. He is 99 points back. Chadler Blake is 101 points back. And rounding out the top 20, Jason Calasso cracks into the top 20, and he is 103 points back of the points leader. And for our race recap, there were 6 cautions for 24 laps. Scott Johnson was a hard climber with 31 laps. Ethan Littinger led 40 laps to finish in 3rd. There were 10 leaders for 26 lead changes, and the margin of victory was just 0.08 of a second. Next week, the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series will be tackling the Boston International Speedway, along with the GameStop Truck Series at the Verizon Cup. It is the 10th race of the season, while the GameStop Trucks, it will be the 8th race of the season. The Kellogg's Northwest and Southwest divisions will also be racing as well, the Northwest being at the Lehman Speed Park and the Southwest being at the Phoenix International Raceway. Both of those are race number 4. The only other race that's being run that same week is the All-American Series. They'll be taking the 6th race of the season at the Martinsville Speedway, the Paperclip. We'd like to congratulate Todd Piper on scoring his first victory here in Atlanta, and we will see you at the Boston International Speedway in Boston, Massachusetts.